Hello, and welcome to the Buster Bunch Intro to Magic Guide. Today, we'll be covering the basics of Magic in 4 categories: gear and perks, passive boosts, permanent unlocks, and ability rotations. Starting off with the gear, the most important item for any style is always the weapon. Use the highest tiered weapon that you can, but keep in mind that if you have greater concentrated blast unlocked, dual wield weapons will provide significantly more damage than a staff of the same tier or even higher. For example, a set of seaward weapons with greater concentrated blast will be superior to a hypothetical tier 99 staff. On the other hand, staves are much cheaper than the dual wield counterpart of the same tier. If you want to get the best of both worlds, experiment with switching between a high tiered staff and a lower tiered dual wield for their respective abilities. As for armor, it contributes surprisingly little to your overall damage. A set of tier 80 armor provides a DPS boost of around 6% over using no armor at all, and a set of tier 90 bumps that number to only 7%. Needless to say that benefits from armor above Virtus are marginal at best, and is not something that you should prioritize. Avoid Tectonic at any costs, as its insanely high costs for a set of degradable armor is not worth it. For gloves, use Cinderbanes if the boss is poisonable, or a Death Touch bracelet if not. Carapax wrist wraps are also a viable option if you can bleed walk your target. There's really only blast diffusion boots that go in the boot slot, but you don't need to worry about upgrading them to their spike counterpart, as its increased damage is negligible. There aren't really any skill capes that benefit magic specifically, so your cape slot should be filled with an Igneous Kiln Cape, which reduces the cost of omnipower and increases its damage. If you haven't obtained it yet, a kiln should do just fine. As for rings, if your hit chance is above 105%, use a Reaver's Ring, and if it's below that, use a Channeler's. There's an online calculator to calculate your accuracy on specific bosses, which will be linked in the description, but the easiest way to decide which ring to use is to just try a Reaver's, and if you splash, switch to a Channeler's. For the amulet slot, use the best amulet you have until you can get an Essence of Finality with a Gothic Staff inside. This is one of the biggest DPS boosts for Magic early on, as the Gothic spec provides an easy adrenaline dump while being one of the most efficient specs for converting adrenaline to damage. Arethdor's Grimoire is the best Magic pocket slot, but only if used with a Fractured Staff of Armadyl. Otherwise, a Scripture of Full will provide more damage at a lower cost. Cheaper alternatives to either of those is a Scripture of Wen if your damage per minute or DPM is below 200k, and a Scripture of Jazz if it's above 200k. An easy way to calculate your DPM is to start up a 5-minute gem that you can purchase from the GE or Dwarven Barrels, which are available in the Solomon store. Moving on to pouches. Here are the runes needed to use important ancients and lunar spells. For perks, we'll separate them into 2 categories: basic and advanced. Passive boosts. First is Relics. At 99 Archaeology, the recommended relics are Fury of the Small, granting all basic abilities plus 1% base adrenaline gain; Berserker's Fury, providing a damage increase of up to 5.5% depending on how low your health is; and Font of Life, increasing your health by 500%. Meanwhile, at 120 Archaeology, the recommended relics are Fury of the Small, Conservation of Energy, refunding 10% adrenaline after any ultimate, and Death Ward, reducing damage taken by up to 10%. Auras. The best aura for Magic is Maniacal, which provides a 10% damage increase outside of Sunshine, 4% during Sunshine, and a 20% accuracy boost. It has by far the highest damage boost, but at the cost of taking 10% more damage. Next up is Majorat Aura, which has a flat 5% damage boost. Then, we have the Supreme Invigorating Aura, restoring 10% adrenaline after using ultimate abilities. And lastly, there's Inspiration, increasing the base adrenaline gain for basics by 0.5%. If Maniacal is on cooldown and your hit chance is below 100%, consider using Supreme Runic Accuracy. Unless you're using a Fractured Staff of Armadyl, Rippers with Spiritual Prayer Potions are the way to go. Avoid using Yaks unless absolutely necessary. For example, places like Zuck Hard Mode. Let's talk about unlocking abilities now. The most important ability to unlock for Magic is Greater Concentrated Blast. It has the highest damage output for basics and only a very short cooldown, meaning it can be used on every 3rd ability. Corruption Blast also has a very high ability damage on a single target, but truly shines in AoE scenarios. It is a highly recommended ability to unlock early on. Magma Tempest is a neat ability that has a high area of effect damage, good single target damage, and can be cast before a boss spawns or during phases. However, due to its very high cost and minimal DPS increase, it should be one of the last abilities purchased for Magic. Greater Sunshine extends the duration of Sunshine to 38 seconds, as would a planted feat switch. If you don't have a planted feat switch and are not willing to use one, this is a very high priority ability to get. Affliction provides at most a 2% damage boost over Torment, therefore this is best left as one of the last upgrades due to the high cost of Praisal Codexes. Moving on to spells. City of Sentistan spells are an absolute must to achieve good magic damage. The main spells unlocked are Incite Fear, Exsanguinate, and Smoke Cloud. Smoke Cloud is a debuff that you can apply alongside Vulnerability that increases the damage of critical hits by 15% and your crit cap by 12%. Incite Fear enables the early use of Tsunami during Sunshine, providing extra adrenaline for its duration. Exsanguinate increases basic damage by 1% per stack to a maximum of 12, at which point the ability rack upgrades to Rack and Ruin until used. A very important unlock is the passive Vigor from the Extinction quest, as it refunds 10% of your ultimate and special attack adrenaline costs. A good ability rotation maximizes average ability damage over time. In simpler words, this means that you prioritize the abilities that do the most damage, taking into consideration adrenaline use and cooldowns. For Magic, this is done by following this basic pattern. You start off with Greater Concentrated Blast, which is the foundation of your rotation, followed by 2 abilities and then repeat. When you're building adrenaline, fill the empty slots with strong basics, prioritizing those that can crit. Here are the magic abilities ranked by damage during the Outside Sunshine. You don't need to memorize all of them, just know which ones deal more damage and which ones to avoid. Now that we have the basics down, let's talk about ultimate rotations. Magic revolves around Sunshine as it boosts all ability damage except bleeds by 50%. This is a huge increase, which is why you have to activate Sunshine as soon as it goes off cooldown or every 60 seconds. You can think of your overall rotation as 2 repeating cycles, 38 seconds in Sunshine, 22 seconds out, repeat. While Sunshine is on cooldown, you need to manage your adrenaline by balancing your basics and thresholds so you reach 100% as soon as Sunshine's ready. Improper timing of Sunshine will result in a damage decrease throughout the remainder of the fight. From here on, we'll be exploring the 2 main Sunshine rotations with different spells, Exsanguinate and Incite Fear. We won't mention certain basics, so just follow the basic pattern and incorporate the mentioned thresholds. The Exsanguinate rotation has been in use almost since the release of EOC, and really makes the most out of your thresholds. After you Sunshine while casting Smoke Cloud and Vulning, drink an Adrenaline Potion and then cast Wild Magic and Asphyxiate when you can. Build your Adren back, but keep it below 100% with G-Specs until Wild Magic and Asphyxiate come off cooldown. You should be able to cast them both for a second time before Sunshine expires. On the second Sunshine, your Adrenaline Potion will be on cooldown, so build up to 30% Adrenaline with basics first, and use Limitless to cast Wild Magic and Asphyxiate, or 45% Adren if you can use Deep Impact and Flanking Swap. The Incite Fear rotation, on the other hand, focuses on generating Adrenaline with ultimates. After you Sunshine while casting Smoke Cloud and Vulning, use an Adrenaline Potion and cast Tsunami when possible. Tsunami will generate 10% extra Adrenaline per critical hit you deal within the next 30 seconds, which will temporarily increase your Adrenaline gain. You can then cast Wild Magic and Asphyxiate when available, but you will now have much more Adrenaline to play with, which provides the means to cast an Igneous Omnipower if you have the Magic Zuck Cape and a couple of G-Specs before Wild Magic and Asphyxiate are off cooldown. You can also experiment by swapping between Incite Fear and Exsanguinate to receive the bonuses from both spells. Well, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing and feel free to ask any questions that you might have in the comments section. We'll do our best to help out. Peace.